G'day, I'm Scott Poynton and welcome to another podcast. Haven't done one for a while, but I'm very pleased to be able to welcome today a very fascinating guest called Gretha Oost. And Greta is, speaking of Greta, she's in the Netherlands. When you hear Greta speak, you'll realise that she spent some time in Australia. And she is the founder of what I think, and I've only just learned about it through talking to Greta recently, an amazing little organisation called 1 Million Mini Missions. And Greta's going to tell us about 1 million mini missions. She's going to tell us how she got to that place of setting it up. And one of the amazing things, truly, I believe, amazing things that 1 million mini missions is doing. So, Gretha Oost, welcome to our podcast. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Nice to see you, Scott.
Yeah, nice to see you too. We had a chat last week. We just caught up, and this is
Yeah.
we've got to say the power of social media and LinkedIn. Just caught up via LinkedIn and had a chat, and suddenly, what might have been, well, I think we'd planned a bit of a longer chat, but it became a really great chat, and I was grateful for it. And I said, Greta, we need to get on a podcast.
Yeah.
We've done some amazing
Yeah.
things. So tell us just quickly. We'll come back to it later, but just tell us quickly about 1 million mini missions.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll introduce the concept really briefly. And the idea is that if you look at the world of today, I mean, as an individual, it's way too overwhelming. We've got crisis upon crisis, and yeah, it's like, it feels like, what can I do? And so the idea is that um, I don't have influence on saving the planet. It's too big. But I can make an impact on my local little, um, yeah, on my own little pocket of the planet. So my suburb, my small town, um, and the idea is that if we all start a mini mission and we all make our own little pocket of the planet more beautiful, more social, more sustainable, and we repeat it over and over again, 1 million mini missions, the whole world will become beautiful after all.
I like it. I believe.
And yeah, and what I've learned is that a lot of times a mini missions is contributing to a bigger issue.
Yeah.
So it's very empowering, and it's very beautiful to see people turning an idea into a mini mission.
Yeah. And blossoming, right? We'll come back to this. I think you've got some beautiful stories, Greta,
Yeah.
about what you've seen with people who are engaging in their little mini missions. But before we get there, you've had an amazing journey to this place yourself, and I loved hearing about the bike ride in the Andes. And
Yes.
so, yeah, just tell us about young Greta, where she grew up, and how she ended up living in Australia for a while, and what you did there. You did some amazing, innovative things there too. And just tell us a bit about that, Greta's story to this point, your story to this point, Greta.
Yeah, so I live now in a small town in the north of the Netherlands, in an area called Frisia, which is a little bit different than the rest of the Netherlands. We've got our own language. It's a bit like Wales in the UK. We've got our own language. We've got our own customs. We're known for being stubborn people. And I grew up here, and then have been away for about 25 years. And so Willem and I, we during our studies, we went to Australia for an internship. And then we always said we wanted to come back. We wanted to come back to Australia. And so when we finished our studies and started working, we started the application process for our permanent residency. And that's a long process, and that's bloody hard.
Yeah.
And so when we finally submitted all the documents, we were told it could take up to a year for it being processed. And so I said, I don't feel like waiting around. Let's go travel. And so I came up with a plan to cycle through the Andes. And so we started in Quito in Ecuador. And then eventually our goal was to go to Punta Arenas in Chile, but we eventually added a little bit and we cycled all the way to Ushuaia in on Tierra del Fuego,
Wow.
which was extremely tough.
Yeah. I bet you had a lot of calluses when you were done.
Yes, yes, yes.
Calluses on part of
And
your body, but not normally calloused, I suspect.
yes, exactly that one as well. And you know, but it was amazing. It was yeah, such a life-changing experience. And um I mean, and this morning I went on a walk with a friend, and I was even saying like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that, I've had moments where we woke up at 5,000 meters next to geishas somewhere in Bolivia. And, it was like so cold.
Yeah. How long did
But
it take
yeah,
you, Greta? How long did it take you?
in total, it was 11,000 kilometers. And it took us 9 months. Yeah. And, but so when we did this amazing trip. It was a two week journey through Bolivia, and where you have the Uyuni salt lakes,
Okay.
and it's very remote. So that was 2 weeks without internet. It was we really had to take all our food with us for 2 weeks, and because there were no shops along the way. And then we ended up in the Atacama Desert, and that's where we found out. We opened up our email after 2 weeks, and that's where we had the email from the Australian Embassy saying that we were granted our permanent residency.
Oh,
So that was really a great moment. And yeah, so after that trip, we arrived in Australia, and that was in 2004, a long time ago. Oh,
yeah, yeah.
20 years ago. Yeah, yeah.
We're getting
So
older, Greta.
we're getting older, definitely.
But yeah, so where did you end up? Where were you in Australia?
So the idea was actually to settle in Sydney, because that's where we did our apprenticeship during our final year of our studies. Um, and so we arrived in Melbourne, and the idea was to cycle from Melbourne to Sydney and then settle in Sydney. But we actually really like Melbourne.
Yeah.
And so we did an Excel spreadsheet, to be honest. We did an Excel spreadsheet where we weighed up all the benefits of Melbourne versus Sydney. And I'm sorry, Sydney people, but Melbourne had the biggest score.
Came
So
out on top.
Melbourne came out on top.
Well, I'm from Victoria, so this gives me
Yeah,
joy. But the Aussies make a lot of noise about whether Sydney or Melbourne's better. But quite interesting.
yeah.
Places like Brisbane and Adelaide and Perth are sort of coming up the ladder too, I think, as really great places to live. But
Absolutely. But
yeah,
I think what was the contributing, what is it? The winning factor was that Melbourne is, it's more flat
yes,
and it's more cycle friendly than Sydney. And so that was one of
really. Well, you
the
shouldn't
re
be worried about flat after you've cycled 11,000 kilometres in the
I
end.
know, I know, I know, that's true.
Maybe
But
you're coming back to your Dutch origins, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
not a
yeah.
lot of mountains.
Melbourne. Yeah. So yeah, and then arriving in Melbourne, in 2004, which was on at the top of the 10-year drought. And I remember seeing adverts on TV of, at the time it was Steve Bracks, who was the Premier of Victoria, and he was flying in a helicopter above empty dams. And um and it was like, asking us to have short showers. And, it was like really pointing the finger, have a short shower, have a short shower. But when I was in the shower, I was like, well, but a shower is nice. So you forget about time.
Yeah.
And
Very
that's
relaxing.
why,
A lot of people do their sort of meditation and relaxation in the shower,
yeah.
don't they? Right?
So I was like, well, so that's where the idea came for the shower watch, which was, to make people aware of their time in the shower, a little timer counting down from 4 minutes back to zero, because we were recommended to have a 4-minute shower.
Mm.
And that's how my journey started as a product developer.
Yeah. So just what were you planning on doing when you went to Australia?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. You went,
Yeah.
you liked it as a when you did your apprenticeship and you thought you'd go back. What were you hoping to do?
Well, the idea was always that I was going to set up my own little business.
Doing
Um,
what sort of business?
I was working before in marketing and comms,
Okay.
and so I never thought I would become a product designer or a designer.
Yeah. I was wondering, did you
It
have that
just happened.
inclination? Yeah, you didn't have that inclination. You just saw this
Yeah, an
thought about what
opportunity.
sort
Yeah,
of thing. Yeah, dived in.
yeah. And I think that's um what how my brain works.
Mm,
And so I connect dots, and I see connections that normal or not normal, but
yeah. You see
that
gaps, right? You see
well,
gaps and opportunity.
yeah. And that was actually the same with because so I designed and developed the shower watch, and I did that in collaboration with local industrial designers. And immediately it was nice because I submitted it to the um, design awards for sustainability design awards in Victoria, and immediately was a finalist in an awards program, and which was really nice. And I remember so well as speaking to one of the, you're doing all this research, and I spoke with intellectual property lawyers and thinking about how can I get this to market. And I remember one of the IP lawyers saying like this crazy story about also an unexpected way of selling a product, and that's eventually got me thinking. And so I managed to sell the shower timer to the Accor group. And so by pre-selling the product, so getting a large order for 1,000 hotel rooms in Sydney Darling Harbour, and selling it as an add-on to the existing no, not to the existing towel and linen reuse program that you have in hotel rooms.
Mm,
Um, we did a trial in 1,000 hotel rooms in Sydney Darling Harbour, which was really nice. And by pre-selling the product, I was able to manufacture it.
yeah. Got you up and
Yeah,
running.
yeah, it got me up and running. And but that was in 2007, 2008. And then when it was the global financial crisis, and the hospitality industry was hit hardest. So nobody was investing, not even if it was a cost saving program. So the shower watch didn't have a long life. And but I was in that mindset, and I was reading about Anita Roddick, her book Troubled Water, and I saw an image of two boys on a pile of plastics. And that's how the idea of my next product came to mind, um, offering an alternative to bottled water. And so I went again into the process of working with industrial designers to create a product, a water bottle with a filter, because we like to drink tap water, but we don't like the taste of chlorine.
Right.
And so I designed a product that was removing the chlorine
From
from
the
tap water,
tap water. Yeah.
which then again led me to the next revelation, which was, okay, it's great to have a beautiful water bottle, but if you can't refill it anywhere in the street, because the bubblers that are out there are all designed for drinking drinking
Wow.
directly, from your mouth.
No way to fill it up into a water bottle.
No way to fill it up.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, back then, now there's way more refilling stations all around the city, but back then there were not many. And so that was how the idea of the O fountain popped up. And talking about unexpected connections, it was actually during an event in 2012 when the Melbourne Zoo was celebrating its 150th anniversary. And we had this event with, well, I don't know, a lot of small baby elephants painted by different artists.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing the interaction between people and the art, and seeing how happy it made people, and was the moment where I thought, what if every little elephant is also a water refilling station?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was how the idea for the O fountain. So it's a product that combines form and functionality,
Right.
with art. So it's a sculpture for the public space, and it functions as a refilling station, but it also is a canvas for an artist. And so every fountain looks different, because every time a different artist has, turned it in,
Different
applied
inspiration or yeah.
his or her magic.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that we add value to tap water by packaging it in art.
Beautiful. How did that go? What is it? Where is it today? What's happened to that project?
Well, it. What happened is that I'm actually at the moment trying to put new life into that project, because I so believe in it. Even this weekend, an artist posted another. She posted on Instagram images of how good of her work on the fountain in a Stockland development in Altona. And but after COVID, I've lost momentum with that project.
Mm. Sounds
And
like wonder why.
yeah, I wonder why as well. But it doesn't help if that I'm on the other side of the world as well.
So tell me
So
about that. You're doing these projects in Australia. I'm assuming you enjoyed living there, and
yes,
here you are now back in Frasier. How did that happen?
I think it was always the plan to not live in Australia permanently. And so and we planned to go back when the girls were still, because in the meantime we it wasn't just the two of us anymore, but we've become four.
Mm-hmm.
And so we we wanted to go back when the girls were still little, but we stayed way longer than intended.
14 years altogether, I think you said.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then it was like, oh well, yeah, at one point we just made the decision to go back, and we really wanted to give the girls, two the two different cultures, and experience both.
Yeah.
um Although I have to say, I'm not sure whether that was the right decision, yes or no. I mean, I love it here now, but for two girls that are in their pre-teens to move from Australia to the Netherlands, it was pretty tough.
Difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. And for us as well, then yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
So
along that way, now where was it in Australia, or where was it when you got home that this idea for 1 million mini missions came up? I mean, you were already doing. Now you had the timer, the O fountain, and so you're already in that space of innovation for sustainability. Uh,
mm,
that didn't just come as I know from our our other discussion, that hasn't come just because, oh, you're a bit of a product developer. You have a deep belief
Yes.
very deep belief in trying to make a contribution, trying to do what you can to make the world a better place. So, where did where did the impetus come from, and was there a spark? Was there a kick that drew you? Like, you mentioned Steve Bracks and his helicopter, and you, you know, what was the impetus to help you to go with, okay, I think I might do this 1 million mini mission things? What was the moment there? Was there a moment, or was it
Yeah,
just a
yeah, yeah.
culmination of things?
Yeah, and that's absolutely right what you just said. Like the shower watch came out of, out of a sustainability, um, and I think that came after cycling in South America. But I have to admit that when I was working in the Netherlands, I was working in the airline and fossil fuel industry, and so I made a really big change into sustainability after cycling in South America. But and I think the common thread of the three products that I designed and developed is the fact that they offer, they're offering people, yeah, they offer a tool, an instrument to take action. So it's one thing to say, save water, but how do I save water? Oh, I'm taking a short shower, but how do I take a short shower? Okay, by timing your shower. And it's the same with, it's uh, you have to drink tap water. Yeah, okay. But if I don't like the taste of chlorine, or if I can't refill my water bottle. So all the products that I designed today have to do with offering, a tool to actually change that behavior. But what was the magic moment was that with the launch of the very first fountain in Alma Park in Eastern Kilda, the artist who created the first work of art, Georgie Faircloth, she did something magical by representing the community. So she created a work of art that meant something to the people that are going to use the product and are going to, and that was the aha moment where I went, oh, hang on a second. What if art is amazing, but what if it's not just art, but what if it has a meaning for the local people?
A deeper emotional connection, right?
Yes, yes. But also, what if it symbolizes something bigger?
Yeah.
And of course, it's great that it has the function of water refilling station and it stimulates, positive behavior change.
Mm-hmm.
But what if there is a deeper layer to it, and what if it means something more? And so that's how the idea for a million mini missions started.
Mm.
And that has been such a long journey of fine-tuning and finding the right words and what am I trying to do with a million mini missions. And it's still sometimes really hard to explain what it really is about. But the yeah, so I also met a woman a woman from Frankston,
Ah,
from where
Dawn.
yeah, so her name is Cindy Plowman, and she has this amazing company called the Conversation Caravan, and she does a lot of project with community engagement. And so and I love the idea that she uses a caravan and that she creates an independent, neutral space within the community where she interacts with people and people share, have conversations around a certain topic, and so that's eventually what we piloted in the Netherlands, and then what eventually turned into the 1 million mini missions concept. So the idea is that the concept of asking people about not what their opinion is about, because normally we're asked about what is have your say, all the have your say campaigns.
Yep.
So it's a local government, an LGA that comes up with a plan, and then we are, as citizens, we're allowed to participate and we're allowed to share ideas, but then we hand it over back to council. And so the idea behind A Million Mini Missions is that I have an idea as a citizen. I walk through my neighborhood and I see that, oh, wouldn't it be nice if there was a little bench at the end of my street where, where my neighbor who is not, she's not too fit and she needs to rest every now and then. So what if we can create, if there is a little bench at the end of our street? So if I have that idea, wouldn't it be nice if I took action myself on that idea? And so what we do at A Million Mini Missions is that we get people to write their idea down on a little card. Oh, I don't have a card here, but it's this beautiful card that says, my mini mission is.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ask people, do you have an idea to improve your local neighborhood? And you write it down. And what happens then is that a lot of times someone else walks past. So you write down the idea, we peg it up on a washing line, and someone else walks past and goes, oh, I have the same idea. And then something magic happens.
Magic happens, yeah.
Yes, because so what it does is it simply brings out, because an idea is an idea, it's in your head, and nothing happens.
Yep. And usually there's a lot of barriers to something happening, right? Might have not much time. Maybe you think, oh, I need funding for that. Where am I going to get the funding?
Yeah.
The kids have got to get to school, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of things, right, to action. And that's part of the problem. We're often waiting for someone else to do the action for us. I wish someone had put a bench at the end of the street so Mary could have a seat.
And a lot of times it's the government should do that.
Yeah, we're always looking for someone else to do it. Usually the government.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't happen.
So what we're doing is, so we use the same concept as Cindy with a caravan or a little V'd up combi van, and we ask people to share their ideas, and then we bring the like-minded people, we bring them together and we connect them. And a lot of times they don't know each other, but we connect
They live
them.
in the same community, but
they live in the same community. Yeah. And they're different generations, there's like a 72-year-old is working together with a 40-year-old, organizing a little event and turning their idea into a mini mission. And a mini mission doesn't need to be permanent. It can be what you call in the startup world, you call an MVP, the minimal viable product. So you don't need to have a permanent bench immediately, but you could go to the op shop and see if there is a bench that you can give a lick of paint and, just test it. Just put it there and see what happens.
See if it gets used.
See if it gets used. And then if it does, then you can go to council and say, hey, look, we tested this. Here is Mary, and she's not that mobile, and she needs a little bench, and we just tested this for a while, and here is her story, and it makes her really happy, and because she's
out of her house, right? She's walking and good for her health, and while she's out there, she meets Joe, who's on his way to the post office, and suddenly you've got community unfolding. Right?
Yes,
because there's a bench.
Because there's a bench.
Yeah.
And so every time, so we've done this 4 times now at 4 different locations as a pilot. And the idea is that, or not the idea, is what we're creating now is that every time if we pop up with our caravan and then we come back 2 weeks later, because to see if we can get the like-minded people, if we can connect them, and then our goal is to get 3 to 5 mini missions happening at that particular location as a start, and from there on it can grow. And the community is involved in selecting an artist, because it's one thing for people to share ideas, but you don't want to let it, if there's new ideas, if there is mini missions, it creates new energy, new social energy.
Yeah.
And you don't want to let that evaporate.
You got to keep on with it, right? Strike while the iron's hot.
Yes.
Keep it moving. But not push either, right? It's a fine balance between nudging and encouraging versus pushing and, making it something that becomes a pain in the neck, right? You've got to help people to find their way.
Yes. You sometimes you help them, to get over the barrier. You lower the barrier, and then you help them and you connect them with like-minded people. And then new energy is happening, new connections, new people are meeting one another, and then the O fountain comes back in to the picture, because every mini mission location has a tangible result, and that's the work of art on the O fountain. And so what we're doing then is that every time you see an O fountain, we call it the mini mission fountain now. Every time you see a mini mission fountain, you know that that's a community where people have started their own mini missions. And so now we have 4 locations here in the Netherlands. And so we're about to, 4 artists are about to create 4 works. And then we can connect them. We can create a network of communities that have started mini missions.
Yeah. And just tell me, for those people that actually do a mini mission, what happens to them? What transformations do you see in the people who've gone from maybe maybe they didn't even know they had an idea before you guys turned up.
Yeah.
Or maybe they did have it, but it wasn't happening and they were deeply frustrated or even angry. And suddenly the bench is there, or whatever they've decided to do is actually happening. What journey do you see them go through?
Yeah, that's quite amazing, because I've spoken to a woman that had an idea for a long time. She wanted to organize. She said, we have so many people in our little small town that have a different background. They're not, they're born in a different country. They're refugees. We have people in our town from Ukraine, from Syria. And I'd love to connect with them, and I'd love to drink a cup of coffee with them and have a conversation. But I don't know. I'm reluctant. I don't have the guts to approach them. And how do I do that? And then she said, but now I can approach them, because now it's not me approaching them, but I'm inviting them to my mini mission.
Right.
So the mini mission was to organize this coffee catch up in a local park, in a playground, where everybody was bringing a cake, or, everybody would bake something from their culture, from their background. And we were having coffee and cake in a park. And so it's amazing, because now when she goes to the bakery and she see, she can have the conversation with the person from Syria.
Right.
So, but she is also a person that would never, ever have started a mini mission.
Right. You give people permission to step over the threshold, right?
Yes.
Plus that moment where they've, maybe fear or uncertainty is holding them back, and you say, come on, we can do this. Let's give it a go. You give them a safe space, right?
Yes.
Safe place to explore.
Yes. And it's low risk. You
Mm.
know, it's not, and but it felt great. So she was like, oh, I would never have dreamed that I would organize a world cafe. That's what they called it, Mini Mission World Cafe.
Fantastic.
And like you said as well, you know, some people don't even know that they have an idea, and that's another beautiful story. In the first location we did mini missions, a woman, we asked her, do you have an idea? And she said, nah. And
Yeah.
she walked away again. And then she came back and she said, you know what, I do have an idea. And we have a communal veggie patch, and how I would love for us to cook a meal with the veggies from the veggie patch. And so she put up her wish, her idea. She couldn't make it to the second session 2 weeks later, but two other women, they were like, "Oh, I like this, a communal dinner with," and so the three women got together, and they knew of each other. They had said hi every now and then. It's a very small community, only 1,000 people live there,
Yeah.
but they didn't know each other. And now they've already organized 6 dinners.
Amazing, isn't it?
And every time, you know, also in that particular community, um, one day it was the woman from Syria who said, I would like to cook. And then, and then what happened was that she needed her son to translate, but the son was having soccer practice. And you know, it was like, okay, you know, the dinner is at a time where my son is having soccer practice, and you know, I need him to translate. And so they went to the soccer coach and they asked, can we have practice at a different time? And the soccer coach said, yes, of course, we moved the practice to a different time, but then we want to come to dinner as well. So then the whole soccer came to the dinner. And
Yeah.
these are the beautiful things that, I mean, they sound so simple, and it's like, why don't they happen?
Yeah.
Why,
Naturally
you
on
know,
their own, right?
yeah, but that's what that, and they do happen on their own. But in this particular instances, you know, a million mini, because I asked the woman, would this have ever happened if mini missions wasn't there? And she said no.
Yeah. Well, she walked away initially, right? Without an
She
idea.
was, yeah, she had it, yeah, exactly, and then she came back.
And now look, right?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
did that do for you? I mean, you must get a big thrill out of seeing these things unfold.
Oh yes, yes. Yes, and for me, it's not just a mini mission. It's not the result. It's not the communal dinner or the World Cafe or the, you know, the clothing exchange. For me, it is that what happens when you know the connections and the conversations that happen. But for me, it's even a bigger. You know, I'm looking at another bigger picture because you know we have done this now in 4 locations, and I can see, you know. The magic that is happening. But I like to, you know, my big mission is to have this at 1,000 locations at least in the Netherlands. And, you know, I'd love to see this in Australia, but also in other countries,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and become it like a global initiative,
Movement,
because
global movement, right?
a global movement, yeah, where we're only, you know, facilitating and you know providing the tools for people to lower that threshold.
Lower
And
the threshold, provide the spark that,
yeah.
brings people to the threshold because, as you say, like, oh, there's my thumb going up there. I don't know why that happens. Uh, yeah, it was a good moment for it to happen. It's a real thumb
Mm,
up moment where, you provide, you lower the threshold for people, people to even come to the threshold, right? To cross into that place of saying, let's do something. So you make it easier for that to happen. And then when they actually get there, you seem to provide that, it's like a little incubator where it sort of
yeah,
gives it a better chance to actually cross over and for something to actually unfold and happen. And then the participants just take it themselves, right? You,
Yes.
in a way, can step back and say, okay, look at that, look at it unfolding. And the magic of what they create sustains them and in fact helps them go further.
Yeah, we do stay in the background because sometimes they, even after the initial, enthusiasm, they still need a little nudge. And, we've had also situations where people started a mini mission and then they didn't finish. And that's okay. That happens as well.
Life, life in
That's
development,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And but I see the bigger picture. So one thing is that and there's this beautiful book that I read recently by John Alexander, which is called Citizens. And it's about, if we look at what is the role of us citizen, that, what's the story that we live in at the moment? We're living in the consumer story. We're, we're mostly consumers.
Yeah,
When we're consuming education, we're consuming healthcare, we're clients, we're customers.
yeah.
and and it's something that has just happened over the last, I don't know how many years. And neoliberalism and capitalism has definitely contributed to it. And so we already talked about, pointing the finger at the government and saying it's their responsibility. But it's like a, I don't know the word for it in English, but it's like a, when a citizen wants to do something and he does show initiative, a lot of times he's being pushed back again by the government and say, no, you're not allowed to do that.
Well, that's our responsibilities, you know.
Yeah. So it is like, on the one hand, governments, local LGAs really want active citizens and they want citizen engagement. But the moment the citizen steps forward, they're being pushed back again. And so I believe that a million mini missions is a really low risk way for us to practice, for citizens to take initiative again and to take action upon a small initiative, but also for, civil servants and people in government to practice with providing space.
Getting out of the way sometimes, right? Letting the people
Yeah.
get on with it. You're giving people agency. You're moving them away
Mm.
from being a taker or a recipient of something to actually creating something. You're giving them agency to create, right? You're not just, yeah, I like this idea, you know, we're just consuming stuff. And now you're saying, hold on, well, we can create something here. We can create a bench. We can create meals. We
Yeah,
can create relationships where in a community where, yeah, as you say, these women knew of each other, but they didn't have a relationship as such.
exactly.
And now
Yeah.
things together. And so you're creating human contact and human relationship around issues that people are worried about and people are concerned about or people are excited about. It's all very positive and hopeful, right? And it might have come from, golly, we're worried about climate change, for example. It might have come from a place of worrying about some bigger issue that sits outside the community. It might have,
Mm.
or it just might be something that an individual thinks about but doesn't talk about because you know that everyone else is worrying about other things. And then suddenly something's happening, and people you're giving people agency, and I think you're giving people hope. I think a million mini missions creates this sense of, well, we don't have to wait for someone else to do this for us. We can take our own agency
Yeah.
and 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 do something here. And you'd like to hope that local governments would say, well, this is terrific. You know, let's inspire that because actually it should make their work a lot easier, right?
It should, um, but it's very hard. There is a lot of resistance.
Hard to let go. They've got power.
Yeah.
They've got
Yeah.
power, right? And
Yeah.
you
And
get
that's,
this situation where they invite comment, but when you just invite comment, you don't have to accept the comments. You know, if you get comments coming in from, if you're a local government, you want to do something, or if you're a company, I've seen this a lot in my work with companies. They invite public stakeholder dialogue. There's no dialogue about it whatsoever.
No.
Meeting, everyone comes, yells at the company, yells at the government. This is outrageous, blah blah blah, and they say we've had a dialogue. They tick a
Yeah.
box, and companies get
Yeah.
certified. Companies
Yeah.
get, like, part of the certification schemes on sort of sustainability is to say, have you had a stakeholder dialogue? And they say, yes, we did. Now,
Yeah.
the reality is the dialogue wasn't really a dialogue. There was a lot of
Yeah.
yelling going on. There wasn't a lot of calm discussion, and then the company or the government just completely ignores all of those
Yeah.
things. They say, "Oh, we had a dialogue. We ticked the box. We didn't."
Yeah.
364 people. The fact that they all yelled at us and they were all miserable, hated our idea, doesn't matter. We met them, and then the
Yeah.
idea goes ahead anyway. And so
Yeah.
those aren't really great processes, and they don't lead to great outcomes like what you're describing, and much more somehow sensitive or human relationship based outcomes where people get together and do pretty amazing things, but often simple things like having a meal together, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is as well that it doesn't need, all the mini missions or most of the mini missions that have come, you know, that have originated, don't need any funding. They don't, they just, they're simple to organize.
Yeah.
And um and but what the trick is, and we've noticed it as well, even local organizations like, in social domain organizations, or another local um, um, what you call it, society, or that attend our second session, what we call the soapbox session. They immediately, when a person has an idea for a mini mission, a lot of times a person an existing organization immediately says, oh, but we're already doing that.
Right.
And what they do is they devalue the idea immediately.
Take the wind out of the sails, right?
Absolutely. But and it's not with bad intentions. It's with good intention, and of course if you're already doing it, you want to, you're proud of it as well, and you want,
Well, own it.
yeah. But I think we
Sometimes
need
there's
to learn.
funding attached to that as well sometimes, right? People say, well, I'm doing that. I've got funding for that. And if
Yeah.
I do it, I might not get my funding, and
Yeah.
God knows what
Yeah, competition.
competition, right?
Yeah, but what if so that's what we need to practice. I think that's what a million mini missions does. It allows us to practice with, you know,
Cooperation.
yeah, and offering space, and saying, oh, how fantastic that you've got the same idea. What can you do? What would you like to do? What do you need?
What could we
What
do
do you,
together?
yeah, how can, exactly. But that's really hard, and that's where the resistance comes from as well.
Yeah.
And seeing a million mini missions as a threat,
Interesting.
and but
But you're making progress. And
it's
I
it's
understand that there is discussion about taking it national, right, in the Netherlands.
yeah. I've got this conversation happening at the moment with a large organization in the building and infrastructure um, industry, that are seeing an opportunity for big transition processes where um, they they have to do a big impact project to make a neighborhood more, I don't know, sorry, um,
Just more,
well,
yeah,
with adapt for climate change and heat stress.
right.
So where they want to make it more green and plant more trees, or maybe create a water buffer so that when it rains a lot there is no floods. And so they're creating, changing the whole infrastructure of the suburb,
Mm.
which has a massive impact on the community. And of course, they do community engagement, but a lot of times with these community engagement um, uh,
Process.
processes, it's what we, and I don't like the name, but they call it the usual suspects. So it's, it's the people that are already active.
Mm.
They turn up and they participate, and they are the loud voices.
Yeah.
So you never reach just the what we call the caring majority.
Mm-hmm. And silent often.
Yes. And so, and of course they have to do that process, but they see an opportunity for, in parallel to a standard community engagement process, to also offer the community the 1 million mini missions initiative, so that we can grow the movement, and that we can, we can activate more people. I mean, I don't like the word activate people.
I know
It
what you mean.
sounds really,
Just engage,
but
right? Inspire.
inspire people to also feel empowered, and to, for people to claim the citizen status again, and then eventually maybe they are participating in the big challenges as well. But you need to start somewhere, and a mini mission is a great way.
Yeah. Low risk, as you say, low barriers to entry.
Mm,
Gets people up and running. And yeah,
mm,
who knows, in 10 years' time, from a mini mission, they might even be, the mayor of the community,
exactly.
and they've grown up through the community, and they're changing the whole way of engagement.
Because it's empowering.
It's empowering. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing, Greta. I loved hearing about it when we first spoke, and that's why I really wanted to capture it in our discussion today. I think you're onto something.
Mm,
Really do. And I think it needs to go global. I really do. I think
yeah.
it's really part of my philosophy too. You can become overwhelmed, as you said when we started talking. You can become so overwhelmed by melting glaciers, massive storms, big fires, the political turmoil that's
Mm,
happening in the world, the wars, and it can just grind you down to the point where you say,
yes.
can't do anything. And people get lost, right? And I speak to a lot of people who they're just a bit lost, and they turn up to work. They're not really happy in their job. What are they doing? They're not really even living. They're just getting by.
Yeah.
And then you sort of give them a bit of a sense of, well, you could do something. What could you do? And I think what you've done is created a mechanism of engagement. Like if you just go to
Well, I do.
a meeting and say, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? People say, yeah, why don't I? Why don't? Then they go home, they turn on the TV, and the whole thing stops. But it's by creating this little organization and a process that sits around it, it somehow makes it real. And it becomes, I'd imagine, it not only becomes harder to stop, but people don't even think about stopping because they're inspired.
Mm,
They become
yeah.
inspired. It completely turns the despair and, in some cases, depression on its head and says, well, I can do that. I might not be able to solve climate change, but I can put a bench at the end
Yes.
of the street for Mary.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's extraordinary. And I do believe, I firmly believe it's that energy, that
That we
spark
need.
that we need in the world to empower
Yeah.
the disempowered or the unempowered, um, to take agency again and start making their contribution. Because I think our whole system of government, our whole system of commerce has sort of taken away the power from people. And yeah, power is not even the right word. It's just like, because you don't have to have power to put a bench at the end of the street, right? Or to
No.
vegetables. It's not about power. It's just about, I think it's about agency. And as you say, stop being a consumer and start being a creator.
Yeah. And I just had to think of something, and it slipped my mind. But
I talk to
um, no, no, no. Um, anyway,
It'll come to you. 3 o'clock
it,
tonight, you'll sit up in bed and you'll say, That's the thing I wanted to
that
mention."
was the thing. Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah. No, I remember what I wanted to say, because so we what my new insight was this week was that, that a mini mission is really mini. Um, because what happened this week was we had two women that came together for the first time, and also they didn't know each other, but because their idea was to organize a fest, a community fest. an event, a small event. And so they came together, and we then said, hey, but we're launching, the artwork of the mini mission fountain will be revealed at the end of April. And so we're having what you call that again? A reveal,
Yeah. Ceremony.
a little ceremony around that. And maybe you want, is that a good moment for you to organize, your event around, and that was already too big of a barrier.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because then you need to probably invite, one of the counselors, and then and the paper is probably going to be there, and so the women said, no, we don't want to. We want to organize a party, but we want to organize it in our way, and so which is fine.
Yeah.
But it was for me an eye opener to say, like, wow, already, organizing an event around the launch of a new artwork is for some people already too big of a barrier.
So the mini bit's really important.
The mini bit is really important. Yes, yes, yes.
Well, it gets people started, right?
Yes.
I think people also perhaps have lost maybe some belief in their own ability to do something, to contribute something. There's also fear, right? What if I do it and it fails and I look stupid
Yeah.
and I look silly in the community? What if I set up an event and no one comes?
Yeah.
There's all those sort of human emotions that weigh on us, right? And can stand in the way of action. And so again, I think what you are providing is that that sense that even if no one comes, you care, you care, you
Yeah.
care enough. Greta cares. The people who are supporting Greta with the mini missions project care. So even if no one comes, we can have a cup of tea with Greta, uh, and we'll
Yeah.
discuss, and we can sort of discuss why no one came, and then we can go again. We'll learn from it.
Exactly.
If they don't have that anchor of support, it's like it becomes too scary. What if no one comes?
Yeah.
And how many people don't post their brilliant ideas or their fantastic thoughts, for example, on social media because they're embarrassed what people might,
Yes. Yes.
scared that they might look stupid. How many times have you sat in a meeting where someone's sitting there burning question, the CEO standing up in front or some leader standing up in front saying this is how it's going to be, and someone's like, that's not
Yeah.
going to work. I know that's not going to work because of this experience, but they don't say anything
Yeah.
because they don't want to look stupid.
Yeah.
They don't want to look like a naysayer. And everyone says, and the leader says, "Can we do this?" Yes, we can do it.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going, "It's not going to work." And 6 months down the track, it has failed, and you're sitting there going, "Oh, I should have said something."
Yeah.
And so I think what you're providing with the sort of infrastructure that you put around this sort of stuff is a safe place for people to raise their hand and say, "Yeah, we want to do it, but we need a bit of help. We need a bit of
Yes.
inspiration. We need some safety. We need a safe place."
And that's what we did. One of our locations in our pilot was a secondary school. So we had teenagers, and I was truly impressed and amazed by how many teenagers wrote down their idea, and also how much it offered us that safe space that we were just talking about. So there was even they're not children, teenagers coming up to us and writing their idea of saying, like, we have some kids that don't feel comfortable in the change rooms, but we don't have a neutral change room. And now the kids need to change into the broom room.
Right.
So they've written down, we love a better change room for people that need a neutral change room. And when do you, so I was amazed that people felt safe enough to write that down at the Million Mini Missions pop-up. And other, we would love a quiet space in the school where we can study. and it's so simple. But when do teenagers get the opportunity to share an idea like that in their school?
Hmm.
And so I was really, so we're still in the final phase of that project,
Mm.
but it was really nice to see already what it did and how those teenagers were able to write down their ideas.
Extraordinarily empowering, right?
Mm.
Greta, I reckon I could sit here and chat to you for about the next 4 hours, maybe 10. Uh, wow. Honestly, it's for me, it's really amazing to hear what you're doing, and just inspiring, honestly. And I imagine that you come away from one of those events where those kids have written something, walking about 10 inches taller, do you? You must just feel lifted. Your spirit must be lifted that somehow these people, be they young or whatever their age, that they're finding their voice and imagining a different world, right? A different way. So how amazing for you, and how lucky we are that you're doing it. So just want to say good luck. What a journey
Yeah.
you're on, from that bike ride in the Andes. Look what's unfolded. So congratulations on where you've come to. But I don't know. I often say to people, where do you think you'll be in 5 or 10 years? Impossible to answer, but wouldn't it be extraordinary if,
Mm.
for example, mini missions, a million mini missions was running in 50 countries? And why couldn't it be? Why couldn't it be?
Yeah. Yeah.
And shouldn't it be?
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be?
Because I love because our URL of is 1mmm.org, and it stands for a million mini missions, but in Dutch it's een miljoen mini missies. And I think it can be in French 1 and it can be in Spanish, and it can be in Italian. It's always 1
Mm. It's
and
universal, right? You
it's
try that
universal.
universal.
Yeah, I didn't realize that when I started it, but it's so yeah, if you want to start it in Switzerland,
Let's get on with it.
be be my guest. Yeah.
Let's get
So
on with it.
it's I think it's a concept that is, if we provide the supporting material and we provide, we create the 1 million mini missions academy where we can teach facilitators to, to run the sessions locally.
We'll share your website address and
Mm.
in the podcast notes, and when we
Well, 50 countries. You are very ambitious, Scott.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I started off
I
thinking
like that.
of 100, but let's take it easy. 50,
Yeah.
just let's keep our ambitions under
Yeah.
some sort of range. But no, I think it's fantastic. And honestly, thanks very much for sharing all this with us. As I say, I reckon there's a hell of a lot more rich discussion we could have, and we will have in the future. So I think we better bring 1 million mini missions to Switzerland, and of course, let's get it up and running wherever else we can. So,
Yeah.
Greta Oost, thank you so much for talking to us today.
It was lovely to talk to you. Thanks.
Good on you.